Chapters 22 to 24 of Tristram Shandy, Volume 2. This is a LibriVox recording. All LibriVox recordings are in the public domain. For more information or to volunteer, please visit LibriVox.org. Recording by Bruce Peary. The Life and Opinions of Tristram Shandy, Gentleman, Volume 2, by Laurence Sterne. Chapter 22. I won't go about to argue the point with you. 'Tis so, and I am persuaded of it, madam, as much as can be, that both man and woman bear pain or sorrow, and, for aught I know, pleasure too, best in a horizontal position. The moment my father got up into his chamber, he threw himself prostrate across his bed in the wildest disorder imaginable, but at the same time in the most lamentable attitude of a man borne down with sorrows that ever the eye of pity dropped a tear for. The palm of his right hand, as he fell upon the bed, receiving his forehead and covering the greatest part of both his eyes, gently sunk down with his head, his elbow giving way backwards, till his nose touched the quilt. His left arm hung insensible over the side of the bed, his knuckles reclining upon the handle of the chamber pot, which peeped out beyond the valance. His right leg, his left being drawn up towards his body, hung over the side of the bed, the edge of it pressing upon his shin bone. He felt it not. A fixed, inflexible sorrow took possession of every line of his face. He sighed once, heaved his breast often, but uttered not a word. An old set-stitched chair, valanced and fringed about with party-coloured worsted bobs, stood at the bed's head, opposite to the side where my father's head reclined. My uncle Toby sat him down in it. Before an affliction is digested, consolation ever comes too soon, and after it is digested, it comes too late. So that, you see, madam, there is but a mark between these two, as fine almost as a hair, for a comforter to take aim at. My uncle Toby was always either on this side or on that of it, and would often say he believed in his heart he could as soon hit the longitude. For this reason, when he sat down in the chair, he drew the curtain a little forwards, and, having a tear at everyone's service, he pulled out a cambric handkerchief, gave a low sigh, but held his peace. Chapter 23. All is not gain that is got into the purse. So that, notwithstanding my father had the happiness of reading the oddest books in the universe, and had moreover in himself the oddest way of thinking that ever a man in it was blessed with, yet it had this drawback upon him after all, that it laid him open to some of the oddest and most whimsical distresses, of which this particular one, which he sunk under at present, is as strong an example as can be given. No doubt, the breaking down of the bridge of a child's nose by the edge of a pair of forceps, however scientifically applied, would vex any man in the world who was at so much pains in begetting a child as my father was. Yet it will not account for the extravagance of his affliction, nor will it justify the unchristian manner he abandoned and surrendered himself up to. To explain this, I must leave him upon the bed for half an hour, and my uncle Toby in his old fringed chair sitting beside him. Chapter 24. I think it a very unreasonable demand, cried my great-grandfather, twisting up the paper and throwing it upon the table. By this account, madam, you have but 2,000 fortune, and not a shilling more, and you insist upon having 300 a year jointure for it. Because, replied my great-grandmother, you have little or no nose, sir. Now, before I venture to make use of the word nose a second time, to avoid all confusion in what will be said upon it in this interesting part of my story, it may not be amiss to explain my own meaning, and define, with all possible exactness and precision, what I would willingly be understood to mean by the term. Being of opinion that 'tis owing to the negligence and perverseness of writers in despising this precaution, and to nothing else, that all the polemical writings in divinity are not as clear and demonstrative as those upon a will-o'-the-wisp, or any other sound part of philosophy and natural pursuit. In order to which, what have you to do before you set out, unless you intend to go puzzling on to the day of judgment, but to give the world a good definition, and stand to it, of the main word you have most occasion for, changing it, sir, as you would a guinea into small coin, which done, let the father of confusion puzzle you if he can, or put a different idea either into your head or your reader's head, if he knows how. In books of strict morality and close reasoning, such as I am engaged in, the neglect is inexcusable, and heaven is witness how the world has revenged itself upon me for leaving so many openings to equivocal strictures, and for depending so much as I have done all along upon the cleanliness of my readers' imaginations. "Here are 2 senses," cried Eugenius as we walked along, pointing with the forefinger of his right hand to the word crevice in the 178th page of the first volume of this book of books. "Here are 2 senses," quoth he. "And here are 2 roads," replied I, turning short upon him, "a dirty and a clean one. Which shall we take?" "The clean, by all means," replied Eugenius. "Eugenius," said I, stepping before him and laying my hand upon his breast, "to define is to distrust." Thus I triumphed over Eugenius, but I triumphed over him, as I always do, like a fool. 'Tis my comfort, however, I am not an obstinate one. Therefore, I define a nose as follows, entreating only beforehand, and beseeching my readers, both male and female, of what age, complexion, and condition soever, for the love of God and their own souls, to guard against the temptations and suggestions of the devil, and suffer him by no art or wile to put any other ideas into their minds than what I put into my definition. For by the word nose, throughout all this long chapter of noses, and in every other part of my work where the word nose occurs, I declare, by that word, I mean a nose, and nothing more or less. End of chapters 22 to 24.